You guys want some more fodder here that just came across? Have you guys seen?
We want more. We have 36 hours to fill. Yes, we want more fodder.
Sure, it was,
Let's
it
go.
was a rhetorical question.
Okay. Sorry.
Rhetorical
My
question.
mistake. My bad.
Rami's agitation might be the highlight of my day. What the bleep do you think?
You moron! Of course, throw out another topic. For God's sakes.
Poor guy's been cramped in a cramped room for a month and a
My
half.
apologies, guys.
We called our uncle in the basement. Hey, you want to come up? Of course I do.
Cabin fever is getting to me, gentlemen.
All right, this is
Enjoy
from ProFootballTalk.com.
Okay.
Tom Brady's idol, who left the team with which he won 4 Super Bowls, thought Brady should stay in New England. Another Hall of Fame quarterback who changed teams late in his career told Brady to embrace the opportunity to start over. Quote from Brett Favre on Sirius XM NFL Radio today, "I spoke to Tom briefly at the Super Bowl. They did the top 100 and we had a chance to visit a little bit. I didn't say, what are you going to do? I just said, hey, if you're thinking about going elsewhere, I said, go for it. And he asked me if I had to do it all over again, would I do it the same way? And I would." End quote.
Of course he would.
How about Tom Brady back-channeling, not even back-channeling, just like face-to-facing Brett Favre at the Super Bowl and saying, all right, just like in theory, if I were to leave the Patriots. Brett Favre giving him the go-ahead. And Brett Favre saying, even though I was lying motionless on the frozen ground at TCF Bank Stadium, maybe with foam coming out of my mouth against the Chicago Bears, I wouldn't trade any of that. I would make the same decision.
Do you think Favre told Tom, it was up to me and I was you, I'd go with the Jets?
Well, the quote continues. He said, "It wasn't as successful as I'd hoped in New York with the Jets, but I'm glad I had that opportunity. His situation obviously is different than mine. There's no reason to think that they didn't want him back in New England, and it would be dumb not to want him back. And I know that they wanted him back, but I just think he wanted to try his hand at something else, knowing he can still play, just see if he can do the magic that he's done in New England with another team. I certainly think he can, and I think it's a good fit for him. I think they have a very good team, and they are much better now. Adding Gronk only makes it better."
I mean, what reason would Brett Favre have to say, no, I would do things differently? He went to New York, and yeah, that didn't go great. But then he came here, had a great season, stuck it to the Packers the first chance that he got, and it didn't. Ultimately, he didn't win a Super Bowl here, but after all was said and done, now he's beloved pretty much here in Minnesota, and he's been welcomed back into the family in Green Bay. There were no long-term repercussions for him that that would make him want to go back and change anything. Everything worked out hunky-dory for Brett Favre.
And you just nailed it, because if Packers fans were still at an arm's length with Brett Favre, if they still had a bad taste in their mouths and they still hadn't honored him at Lambeau Field, I think he would regret it. Because Brett Favre, more than almost any top athlete I can remember, seeks the approval of fans and people around him, right? He doesn't like to be hated. He doesn't like to be the villain. So the fact that Packers fans came back around makes it easy for Brett to not regret the decision to go to mostly the Vikings, really is what the discussion's about.
Like
the Jets are kind of irrelevant.
The Jets got used.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask Brett one question, though. If you could have won the 2009 Super Bowl as a Viking, which obviously would have caused longer-term friction for an amount of time with the Packers, would you go down that path? Because I'm sure his answer is yes. And again, to go back to our conversation a couple weeks ago, if he wins a Super Bowl here, I'm not saying by now that it couldn't start to smooth, but it would have taken longer. And his ultimate goal was to shove it as far up the Packers as he possibly could.
To boil your question down, what's more important to Brett Favre? Another Super Bowl championship with a team that's not the Packers, or the relationship with Packers fans? But I would argue that his relationship with Vikings fans would have been 10 times, and it's great now, but it would have been 10 times as good if he delivers a Super Bowl.
But Brett being Brett, if you could have said, okay, you get traded by the Packers, they get you out of the division, which was their goal, to the Jets, you win a Super Bowl there, and you got a championship there. I think, yeah, he's like, that's cool. But the whole thing in coming here was to stick it to Ted and McCarthy and the Packers. So I think that Brett Favre would, if you had said to Brett Favre, okay, you wouldn't be accepted in Green Bay again till, let's say, 2025, but you've got a Super Bowl and you proved the Packers to be as wrong as they could possibly be. I think that Brett would say, if filled with truth serum, I take that.
If he won a Super Bowl in New York, he's welcomed back into the good graces of Packers fans just as fast as he already was.
Agreed.
Because Packers, there wasn't really a lot of hostility towards Brett Favre when he got traded to the Jets. People were mad at the Packers. People were maybe frustrated with Brett Favre that he hemmed and hawed at the possibility of retirement for so many years and forced the Packers to do what they did. But I didn't sense that there was animosity towards Brett Favre until he finagled his way to Minnesota, a division rival and a team who Packers fans love to point out have an empty trophy case. So had he taken that away from them to go and win one for the rival and take that bullet in the gun, so to speak, when it comes to trash talk away from Packers fans against Vikings fans, I don't know how long it would have taken. I can tell you this though. They have a pretty hard and fast policy in Green Bay that if a Green Bay football player makes it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, their number goes up in the Ring of Honor. It gets retired, their name goes up in the Ring of Honor. So it would have been interesting to see had he won a Super Bowl for the Vikings and then they follow through on that policy and retire that number and have a ceremony. If Brett Favre's not standing at the 50-yard line of Lambeau Field getting booed if he wins a Super Bowl for the Vikings.
That would be amazing to watch. Inject that into my veins. Am I missing something? Tweet from Jesse here. He says, did Rami really just say Favre is beloved in Minnesota? Boy, no, sir. Dude, Jesse, you are. Am I missing something?
Am I missing something?
No, Rami, you're not missing.
If Brett Favre walks in, let's say it's halftime of a Monday Night Football game at US Bank Stadium, and Brett Favre is going to be honored in some way. 70,000 people get on their feet and give that guy a standing ovation here in Minnesota.
People still wear that jersey.
Yeah,
there's to me, there's no animosity.
Are some people torn? Some people probably absolutely yes, but is the entire Viking fan base torn? No way. He got you to yes, he didn't. He threw a bad pass to Sidney Rice, but he got you to the title game. And again, without him, you don't get near that game. That season does not go that way. All due respect to our friend Sage with Sage or now the late Tavares Jackson starting quarterback.